What if the smallest voice in a mansion of glass and silence held the power to save a man who owned the world, but had never known how to love? If this moment moves you, consider subscribing so you never miss the rest of this journey. The first thing Lily Parker learned in the Upper East Side mansion of Alexander Hayes was that silence had a sound. It was not the same silence she had grown up with in the dormitories of New York's foster homes, where children whispered into the night, coughing or crying muffled behind thin walls. No, this silence was polished, heavy, a kind that belonged to marbled hallways and grand staircases. It echoed against glass chandeliers and mahogany doors, announcing every footstep as though it did not belong. Lily was 9 years old, small enough to disappear behind velvet drapes, yet old enough to know the rules of survival: watch, wait, and count. Counting had been her habit since she was 4, the day she was first moved to a foster home after her mother's death. 1 day, 2 days, she would whisper into her pillow, marking the passage of time until she was moved again, until another promise was broken. She had notebooks filled with numbers, days she had survived, days she had been left behind. The act of counting gave her control in a world that had none. Now, sitting at the window of her new bedroom overlooking Central Park, Lily opened her latest notebook. On the inside cover she had written, in small, neat letters, Day 1, I will not hope too much. She pressed the pencil down until the lead threatened to snap. Alexander Hayes had brought her here 5 days ago. He was the kind of man strangers stared at when he walked into a room. Tall, broad-shouldered, his suits cut sharp enough to draw blood. The newspapers called him a titan of cybersecurity, a self-made CEO whose algorithms protected governments and billionaires alike. But Lily had noticed something else about him, the way he never seemed to touch anything for too long, as though the world itself might stain him. He had not meant to take her in. Not really. She was an arrangement, an obligation tied to a charitable program he funded. Yet, for reasons Lily could not quite understand, he had signed the papers. He had carried her suitcase himself through the door of this mansion, where staff lined up like soldiers, their eyes full of curiosity and polite distance. And then he had left for meetings. Always meetings. The days unfolded in repetition. A driver took her to school. A housekeeper asked about her meals. A tutor hovered over her homework. But Alex, Mr. Hayes, as everyone called him, was a shadow, glimpsed only in the late evenings when his office door glowed under the crack of light. On the 6th night, Lily found herself outside that door. She had planned to retrieve her math workbook, which she'd left on his desk earlier when the tutor grew impatient. The handle was cold in her palm. She hesitated. She had been told never to disturb him, but survival had taught her another rule. Sometimes you had to break small rules to avoid being forgotten. The door opened with a soft click. The office was everything she imagined a king's chamber might be. Floor-to-ceiling windows spilling the New York skyline like a river of stars, bookshelves lined with first editions, and a desk of dark obsidian where a single lamp burned. And then she saw it. A red dot. It glowed faintly from behind a stack of documents, pulsing like the eye of something alive. Lily froze. She had seen enough in foster care to know the look of cameras, the nanny cams that some families installed, the surveillance systems in group homes. But this was different. Sleeker. Hidden. The kind that was not meant to be found. Her chest tightened. She reached out, hands trembling, and brushed the papers aside. A small black device revealed itself, its lens unblinking, aimed directly at the desk where Alex conducted his calls, where he signed documents worth billions. Her pencil rolled from her fingers and hit the floor. The sound startled her, too loud in the silence. She scooped it up quickly, stuffed her workbook into her bag, and left the office without looking back. That night, she could not sleep. The red dot burned behind her eyelids. Alexander Hayes, meanwhile, sat 3 floors below, in a private den where no child's footsteps echoed. He stared at screens filled with numbers, projections, contracts. He was a man who measured everything in metrics: profit margins, cyber defense grids, quarterly growth. He had no metric for the 9-year-old girl now asleep under his roof. Or so he told himself. Because in truth, he had noticed her. He noticed the way she walked cautiously through the house, as if expecting someone to tell her she did not belong. He noticed the way she held her notebook to her chest like armor. He noticed that she did not call him Mr. Hayes, nor Alex, nor anything at all. She avoided calling his name altogether. And deep down, in a place he rarely visited, he felt the echo of his own childhood loneliness, the silence of a mansion not unlike this one, the weight of expectations pressing heavier than any embrace. But Alexander Hayes was a man who turned feelings into strategy. He pushed the thought aside, poured another drink, and returned to the glow of his screens. 2 days later, Lily marked another page in her notebook. Day 7. Something is watching. She wrote it carefully, underlining the words. And in that act, a story began. One that would unravel secrets, betrayals, and ultimately, a family born not from blood, but from the courage of a child who counted days until someone finally counted her back. The 7th morning in Alexander Hayes's mansion began with the sound of rain against glass. New York's skyline was blurred, streaked with water as if the city itself were trying to wash away its sins. From her window seat, Lily Parker hugged her knees, watching the drops race each other down the pane. She wondered which ones would reach the sill first and whether they felt afraid of falling. Counting raindrops could have been another way to measure time, but Lily already had her notebook. On today's page, she wrote in small, neat letters, Day 7. Something is watching. She had not told anyone about the red dot. Secrets, she knew, were like coins. Sometimes they were heavy and dangerous, but sometimes they could buy you safety if you knew when to spend them. For now, she held this one close. Still, the thought gnawed at her. Why would a hidden camera be pointed at Mr. Hayes's desk? It was not the kind that parents used to check on babysitters. It was the kind meant to spy, to gather what should not be seen. Lily remembered the way the lens seemed to breathe, glowing faintly in the dark. It was watching, recording, storing something she didn't understand. And the more she thought about it, the more she realized. If she had noticed one, maybe there were more. Later that afternoon, after school, Lily found herself back near the office. The housekeeper, Mrs. Patel, was arranging flowers in the foyer, humming softly, while the driver carried in grocery bags. The house was busy, which meant it was also the perfect time to slip away. She tiptoed down the corridor, heart hammering, and eased the office door open once again. The red light was still there. Her eyes scanned the room. She crouched by the bookshelf and, yes, another faint dot near the corner, half hidden by a sculpture of polished steel. Her chest tightened. She searched the opposite wall, near the thermostat, and spotted a third, 3 cameras. Her stomach knotted. This wasn't just oversight. Someone had placed them here deliberately, carefully, in places a man like Alex might never notice. She backed away, her sneakers nearly silent on the carpet. But just as she reached the door, it opened from the other side. Rebecca Sloan stepped in. Rebecca was 35, tall and composed, her black hair pulled into a sleek chignon that seemed to hold her entire posture in place. As Alex's personal assistant, she moved through the mansion like a conductor of an unseen orchestra. Everything answered to her rhythm, her smile, her schedule. "Lily," Rebecca said warmly, her voice sweet as honey. "What are you doing in here, darling?" Lily froze, clutching her notebook. I left my pencil yesterday." Rebecca's smile widened, but her eyes did not. They were sharp, calculating, like glass that cut even as it sparkled. She walked to the desk, her heels silent on the carpet. As she leaned forward to straighten the papers, Lily noticed something clipped discreetly to her waist, hidden under her tailored blazer. A device. Small, black, with a blinking signal light. Rebecca adjusted it casually, almost like someone tucking in a belt. Then she looked at Lily again. "You should be careful wandering into Mr. Hayes's office," she said lightly, though the undertone carried weight. "He values his privacy." "I know," Lily whispered. Rebecca bent down suddenly, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face in a gesture that would have seemed maternal to anyone else. But the touch made Lily shiver. "Good girl," Rebecca said softly. "Run along now." Her smile lingered even as Lily scurried out, clutching her notebook so tightly her knuckles turned white. That evening, during dinner, Lily sat across from Alex at the long dining table. The table was so vast it felt like an ocean between them. A roasted chicken, steamed asparagus, and silver bowls of potatoes sat untouched in front of him. Alex was scrolling through his phone, tapping, nodding, lost in a stream of updates from half the world away. He looked up once, catching Lily's gaze. "Eat," he said simply. She nodded, speared a potato, and tried not to glance at Rebecca, who was standing in the corner with her tablet, silently monitoring Alex's schedule. The little device at her belt was hidden beneath her blazer now, invisible except to Lily's memory. The food turned to ash in Lily's mouth. That night she couldn't sleep. She lay awake in the vast bedroom, the silk sheets heavy against her skin. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the city gleaming under streetlights. She thought about Rebecca's smile, the way it never touched her eyes. She thought about the device at her waist, the red dots glowing like tiny wounds in Alex's office. And she thought about Alex himself, silent and distracted. His world spinning so fast he might not see the danger until it swallowed him whole. But she saw it. She, Lily Parker, 9 years old, who had learned to notice the things no one else did. She couldn't ignore it. The next day she would have to do something. At breakfast, Alex was already dressed for meetings, his tie perfectly knotted, his expression unreadable. He sipped his black coffee as Lily picked at her cereal. "Your tutor will be here at 4, he said without looking up. "Okay," she replied softly. Rebecca entered with her usual brisk efficiency, handing Alex a folder. "Your schedule for today. The Meridian Group is expecting your preliminary report by noon." "Fine," Alex said, flipping through the documents. Lily glanced at Rebecca's waist again, but the device was gone, or hidden more carefully. Still, the memory of that blinking light burned in her mind. She pressed her notebook open under the table and wrote a new line. "Day 8, I need help." But who could she tell? Certainly not Alex. He barely saw her. And Rebecca? No. Telling her would be like handing over her secret. That left only one possibility. Someone else in the house who might understand what she'd seen. Her mind turned to the old man she had glimpsed once at the company's Hudson Yards facility when Alex had taken her there briefly. He wasn't like the polished executives. He had been sweeping near the maintenance corridor, a badge on his chest that read Robert Jenkins. His eyes had been sharp despite his age, sharp in the way of someone who still noticed details. Perhaps him. That evening, after Alex left for a dinner meeting, Lily sat by the window, hugging her knees. The mansion felt too large, too hollow, the silence pressing down again. But this time, silence wasn't the sound of safety. It was the sound of being watched. And somewhere in that silence, a red light pulsed, waiting to be discovered. The morning sunlight slanted through the high windows of the mansion's dining room, casting long shadows across the polished floor. Lily Parker sat quietly at the table, her spoon clinking softly against the bowl of oatmeal. She kept her eyes lowered, not because she was shy, but because looking up meant seeing Rebecca Sloane. Rebecca stood near the entryway, perfectly poised in her navy suit, her tablet in hand. She looked like she belonged in a glossy magazine feature about successful women in Manhattan, confident, graceful, untouchable. Yet to Lily, she felt like a blade wrapped in silk. It wasn't the way she spoke to Alex. Her voice was always calm, honey-smooth, respectful. Nor was it the way she smiled politely at staff, or even at Lily herself. It was her eyes. They were too sharp, too calculating, like a hawk circling above a field. Lily spooned another bite into her mouth, but her appetite had vanished. The oatmeal tasted like dust. Rebecca glanced at her and offered a smile that could have lit up the room if it had been real. "Good morning, Lily. Did you sleep well?" Lily nodded quickly. "Yes, ma'am." Rebecca's gaze lingered. "Good. You'll need your energy. Your tutor will go over fractions with you today, isn't that right?" "Yes," Lily murmured. Rebecca tilted her head, her smile widening. "Excellent. Keep working hard, darling. Mr. Hayes is very proud of you." The words should have felt kind, but they carried a weight that pressed on Lily's chest. Alex hadn't said anything like that. Not once. He hadn't even looked up from his phone when she showed him her last math quiz. So why was Rebecca saying it now? Because, Lily thought, she wants me to believe she knows everything. Later that afternoon, Lily sat in the library with her tutor. She tried to focus on fractions, on the neat rows of numbers that made sense in a world that often didn't. But her eyes kept drifting to the hallway where she had seen Rebecca pass minutes earlier, her heels whispering against the marble. Rebecca had paused outside the library door just for a moment, as though listening. Then she had continued down the corridor, her tablet glowing in her hands. Lily tapped her pencil against the paper, her heart racing. She thought of the cameras, of the device at Rebecca's waist. She knows. The thought wouldn't leave her alone. When the tutor dismissed her, Lily didn't go straight to her room. Instead, she wandered back toward Alex's office. The door was closed, but faint voices drifted through the crack, Alex's deep, even tone, and Rebecca's smooth, professional cadence. Lily pressed her ear to the wood. "The Meridian Group expects us to deliver by next quarter," Rebecca was saying. "We can't afford any delay. The prototype is too valuable." Alex's reply was muffled. "I'll handle the negotiations." "Yes, of course." Rebecca's voice softened. "I just want to make sure you're protected." Protected. The word made Lily's stomach twist. Rebecca's tone was tender, but Lily could hear something beneath it. Not care, not concern, control. The door suddenly swung open and Lily stumbled backward. Rebecca stood in the doorway, her smile bright and flawless. "Lily, what a surprise!" Lily's cheeks burned. I was just looking for my notebook." Rebecca knelt slightly, bringing herself closer to Lily's eye level. Her perfume smelled faintly of jasmine. "You seem to misplace things often, don't you, sweetheart?" Lily clutched her notebook tighter, though it wasn't even missing. Rebecca's hand reached out, brushing Lily's shoulder in a gesture that looked affectionate. But her grip tightened, just for a second, enough to make Lily flinch. "You mustn't disturb Mr. Hayes while he's working," Rebecca said gently. "He carries the weight of entire nations on his shoulders. You wouldn't want to distract him, would you?" Lily shook her head. "No." "Good girl." Rebecca released her shoulder, her smile never faltering. Then she straightened, her heels clicking against the floor as she returned to Alex's side. Lily walked quickly away, her heart pounding. She didn't need her notebook. She needed answers. That night she dreamed of red dots glowing in the dark, multiplying like fireflies that turned into eyes. She woke with a gasp, clutching her blanket, the mansion's silence pressing around her. She couldn't do this alone. In the morning, she scribbled in her notebook, "Day 9, Rebecca is dangerous." The following day brought a chill wind off the Hudson River. Alex had a meeting at the Hayes cybersecurity headquarters in Hudson Yards, and for once, he allowed Lily to come along. "Stay close," he said gruffly as they entered the gleaming tower, all steel and glass rising into the sky. Lily obeyed, clutching her small backpack. Employees passed by, nodding respectfully at Alex, their eyes widening slightly when they noticed the little girl at his side. But Lily wasn't watching them. She was watching everything else. The cameras in the lobby, the guards at the turnstiles, and the man mopping the floor near the maintenance hallway, a man with silver hair and steady eyes. Robert Jenkins. She recognized him instantly. While Alex disappeared into an elevator with Rebecca at his side, Lily lingered, pretending to tie her shoe. She glanced toward the janitor. He was older, maybe 70, his back slightly stooped, but his movements were precise, careful. And his eyes flicked briefly to hers with the same sharpness she had remembered. Lily's heart beat faster. This was the man she had written about, the one who might understand. She just had to find a way to reach him. That evening, back at the mansion, Rebecca came into Lily's room. She carried a tray with a glass of milk and a plate of cookies. "I thought you might like a treat before bed," she said sweetly. Lily's throat went dry. "Thank you." Rebecca set the tray down and sat on the edge of the bed. Her smile was soft, almost motherly. "You know, Lily, it's important to feel safe here. You do feel safe, don't you?" Lily hesitated. "Yes." Rebecca leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Good. Because Mr. Hayes has enough to worry about. You wouldn't want to add to his burdens." Her eyes gleamed, sharp and unyielding. Then she patted Lily's knee, rose gracefully, and left the room with the same calm smile. The door clicked shut. Lily stared at the milk and cookies. They might as well have been poisoned for how little she wanted to touch them. She turned back to her notebook, her pencil trembling as she wrote, "Day 10. I'm not safe, but I will not give up." Rebecca's smile lingered in her mind long after she blew out the lamp. It was the kind of smile that promised sweetness, but delivered shadows. And Lily knew, deep in her small but steady heart, that smiles like that were the most dangerous weapons of all. The first time Lily Parker saw Robert Jenkins up close, he was kneeling on the floor of Hayes Cybersecurity's headquarters, fixing an electrical panel that looked older than he was. She had slipped away from the guided tour that Alex and Rebecca led for international clients, her small frame unnoticed among the blur of executives in dark suits. She followed the familiar pull of curiosity, that instinct that had kept her alive in the shifting world of foster homes. Find the cracks in the walls, the hidden doors, the places adults ignored. And here he was. Robert Jenkins, Bob as his name badge read, wore a faded Navy uniform. His sleeves rolled up to reveal wiry forearms still corded with strength despite his 70 years. His silver hair stuck out from beneath a cap, and his glasses rested crookedly on his nose. To anyone else, he looked like a janitor or handyman. But Lily saw the sharpness in his gaze as he tightened a wire, the precision in his movements. This was no ordinary custodian. She lingered a moment too long, and he noticed her. "You lost, kiddo?" His voice was gravelly, but not unkind. Lily clutched her notebook to her chest. "No, I was just looking." He eyed her, then returned to his work. "Looking gets people into trouble around here." "I know," she whispered. Something in her tone made him glance back at her. His gaze softened, the lines around his eyes deepening. He had seen that look before, in soldiers, in children from broken homes, in people who carried secrets too heavy for their age. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lily." He nodded slowly. "Bob." He tapped his badge. "Now you know." She hesitated, then crouched closer. "Do you know about cameras? The hidden kind?" The screwdriver paused in his hand, his head tilted, studying her carefully. "Why?" Lily bit her lip. She had promised herself not to tell anyone. But something about Bob, his steadiness, the way he looked directly at her without pretending, made the words spill out. "I found some. In Mr. Hayes's office. 3 of them. They were red, and they were looking right at his desk." The silence that followed was heavy, but not dismissive. Bob set down the screwdriver and straightened slowly. His knees popped. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "You sure about that?" She nodded fiercely. "I know what I saw." Bob exhaled through his nose. "Most grown-ups would say you imagined it. That's the trick with hidden surveillance. It makes you doubt yourself. But you..." His eyes narrowed. "You're certain." "I'm certain." He studied her another long moment. Then, to her surprise, he gave a small smile, almost proud. "Smart kid." They met again that evening in a quiet corner of the Hudson Yards facility after the tour had ended. Alex was locked in meetings, Rebecca was glued to her tablet, and Lily had feigned a headache so she could sit out. Bob approached her near the vending machines, his steps slow but purposeful. "I checked the logs," he said without preamble. "No official cameras listed for that office, which means whoever put them there didn't go through company channels." Lily's eyes widened. "So I was right." Bob's voice dropped to a whisper. "You were more than right. Those aren't toys. They're high-grade covert surveillance units, the kind only insiders or very dangerous people get their hands on." Her pulse quickened. Why would someone put them in Mr. Hayes's office? Bob's expression darkened. Because someone wants what he's building. And they're willing to risk everything to get it. "What is he building?" she asked. "Something called a next-gen encryption module," Bob replied. "It's worth billions, could protect entire governments, or destroy them if it falls into the wrong hands." Lily's small hands tightened around her notebook. "Rebecca," she whispered. Bob didn't flinch, but his eyes sharpened. "You think it's her?" "I saw her with a device. It blinked, and she doesn't smile right." Bob chuckled softly. "A crooked smile doesn't prove treason, but you're not wrong to trust your gut. Kids see things adults miss." "So what do we do?" Lily asked. "We." Bob raised a brow. "Yes," she said firmly. "We. Because if I tell Mr. Hayes, he won't listen. He doesn't see me. Not yet." Bob studied her, then shook his head with a half-smile. "You remind me of me when I was a young techie, stubborn, nosy, and usually right." He lowered his voice. "We gather proof, real proof. Without it, they'll laugh us out of the building. With it, we can save Hayes' cyber, and maybe your Mr. Hayes himself." Lily's chest swelled. For the first time since stepping into that cold mansion, she felt less alone. That night, Lily returned home with Alex. He was on his phone the entire car ride, his voice clipped and commanding. Rebecca sat beside him, typing rapidly on her tablet. Lily sat in the back, staring out at the glittering city. The secret she now shared with Bob, humming like electricity in her chest. She wondered if Alex would ever know. At dinner, Rebecca poured Alex a glass of wine and whispered something in his ear that made him frown. Lily watched, her stomach twisting. If Rebecca really was the one planting cameras, she was close enough to poison his every decision. But Lily had a weapon now, the truth, and Bob had the skills to uncover it. As she scribbled in her notebook before bed, her pencil scratched a new line. Day 11. Bob believes me. We'll find proof. She underlined it twice, then closed the notebook with a determined snap. For the first time, her counting did not feel like waiting. It felt like preparation. The next morning, she met Bob again at the facility, this time in a maintenance corridor lined with humming servers. He handed her a small device no bigger than a pen. Voice recorder, he explained. If you're right, whoever planted those cameras will slip eventually. Catch their voice, catch their words, and we'll have what we need. Her eyes widened. You're giving this to me? You're the only one who can get close, Bob said. Nobody suspects kids. You're invisible in a way adults can never be. Lily nodded solemnly. She slipped the recorder into her backpack. Bob's gaze softened. Careful, kiddo. Curiosity can save the world, but it can also get you hurt. Promise me you'll be smart. I promise, she whispered. For a moment, the old guard and the little girl shared a silence that wasn't heavy, wasn't cold. It was the silence of trust, forming like steel between them. That night, back in the mansion, Lily walked past Rebecca in the hallway. Rebecca smiled at her again, that same flawless smile. But this time, Lily didn't flinch, because hidden in her backpack, pressed against her notebook, was the recorder. And with Bob by her side, she had a plan. She wasn't just a child in a mansion anymore. She was a soldier in a quiet war, and she would not lose. The mansion was quiet again. Too quiet. Lily Parker sat cross-legged on her bedroom rug, her notebook open in front of her. Beside it lay the tiny recorder Bob Jenkins had slipped into her hands. It looked ordinary, like any pen she might use at school, but it pulsed faintly with blue light. Her pencil scratched against paper as she wrote, Day 12. Tonight I will listen for the truth. She chewed her lip, staring at the words. Every instinct told her to stay hidden, to keep safe. But another instinct, stronger, pushed her forward. If she didn't act, Alex would never know he was being betrayed. And if Alex fell, the whole company, the whole world that depended on his encryption technology, might be at risk. She tucked the recorder into her hoodie pocket. That evening, Alex left for a late dinner with investors at Cipriani in Midtown. Rebecca stayed behind, citing urgent office work. Perfect. The office door clicked shut behind her as Lily slipped silently into the shadows of the corridor. She pressed the recorder's button, the faint blue light vanishing as it entered stealth mode. Her small fingers trembled, but her eyes held steady determination. She crouched near the bookshelf, close enough to the hum of hidden cameras, and placed the recorder behind a row of thick law journals. Then she darted out before Rebecca could return. Her heart hammered the entire way back to her room. She shut the door softly, sat on the edge of her bed, and waited. Time ticked by like dripping water. Footsteps echoed faintly down the hall. A door opened, closed, then silence. And then, voices. The next morning, Lily met Bob at the Hudson Yards facility. They slipped into a maintenance closet, the door closing them into a cocoon of wires and dust. Bob plugged the recorder into a small laptop, his fingers surprisingly nimble for their age. Let's see what the wire caught, he muttered. Static, a shuffle of papers, then a voice, smooth, familiar. Rebecca. He's distracted with the investors. Tonight's the window. The code is inside the vault. Once I have the module, we'll be finished here. Lily's breath caught. Another voice responded, male, sharp with impatience. You'd better not fail me, Becca. That module isn't just worth billions, it's leverage over governments. Hayes doesn't even realize what he's sitting on. Lily's eyes widened. Nathan, she whispered. Bob nodded grimly. Nathan Cross. Used to work in Silicon Valley, top-tier security engineer. Last I heard, he vanished from his firm under questionable circumstances. Looks like he found new work. On the wrong side. The recording continued. Rebecca again. He trusts me. Too much. By the end of the week, the files will be ours. The cameras are already feeding everything to your server. Nathan's laugh crackled through the static. Perfect. Soon, the Hayes Empire will belong to us. Bob stopped the playback. His jaw tightened. This is bigger than I thought. Lily's small hands clenched into fists. They're stealing from him. From all of us. Bob placed a hand on her shoulder. You've done something incredible, kiddo. Most adults wouldn't have noticed, but you did. And now we have their voices, solid evidence. Lily nodded, but fear fluttered in her chest. What if they find out? Bob's eyes met hers, steady and unwavering. Then we make sure we're always one step ahead. That night, Lily sat across from Alex at the long dining table. He was reading documents while his untouched steak grew cold. Rebecca stood nearby, phone pressed to her ear, murmuring into it with that same calm smile. Lily stared at her, heart pounding with the secret she carried. She wanted to scream, "She's betraying you!" But she stayed silent. She knew the time wasn't right. Not yet. Instead, she pushed her peas around her plate and whispered in her notebook under the table. Day 13. We have proof. But Alex doesn't know. Later, in the sanctuary of her room, she listened again to the recording on Bob's laptop, every word cutting deeper. Nathan's voice was cold, calculating, like a wolf circling prey. Rebecca's tone, though, sweet, measured, almost gentle, was what unsettled Lily most. How could betrayal sound so calm? How could treachery wear such a perfect smile? The girl curled up on her bed, whispering into the dark. He has to know. Somehow, I'll show him. But how do you tell a man who doesn't hear you that the person closest to him is the enemy? The following day, Bob gave her a small nod when he saw her. We'll need more, he said quietly. Voices are strong, but video is stronger. If we can catch her in the act, she won't wriggle free. Lily swallowed. That means I have to go back in. Bob's gaze softened. Only if you're ready. She lifted her chin. I am. That night, after the house quieted and Alex retreated into his den, Lily crept once more toward the office. Her sneakers barely made a sound against the carpet. She slipped inside, her heart thudding like a drum. She glanced at the cameras, those silent red eyes, and whispered to herself, Not this time. Her small hands began to work. Just as Bob had taught her. She reached up, adjusting the tiny angles of the hidden lenses. One by one, she shifted their gaze. Not to the desk, not to Alex, but toward the room itself, toward Rebecca. If Rebecca came again, if she tried to steal, the cameras would catch her this time. When Lily finished, she stepped back, trembling but proud. She was only 9 years old, but tonight she felt like a soldier. As she tiptoed out, she wrote one more line in her notebook. The words etched bold and certain. Day 14. The wolf will walk into her own trap. And in that moment, Lily Parker no longer felt like a girl waiting to be counted. She was the one keeping count. The next morning dawned gray and cold, the kind of New York day when the skyscrapers seemed to vanish into clouds. But in the Upper East Side mansion of Alexander Hayes, something else hung in the air. Anticipation. Lily Parker sat at the kitchen island, staring at the bowl of cereal in front of her. The spoon trembled in her hand. She wasn't afraid of the cameras anymore. She wasn't even afraid of Rebecca's sharp smile. She was afraid of what came next, because now she and Bob had set the trap, and there was no turning back. Across the kitchen, Rebecca walked in briskly, heels tapping against the marble. Her suit was immaculate, her chignon perfect. She held her ever-present tablet, eyes scanning lines of data. "Eat up. Lily," she said without glancing up. "Children need their energy." Lily forced a bite, though it tasted like cardboard. Rebecca's presence always made the room feel colder. "Mr. Hayes will be at the Plaza Hotel tonight," Rebecca added smoothly, adjusting her blazer. "A charity gala. He'll be gone most of the evening." The words slid through Lily like a blade. Tonight. That was when it would happen. Rebecca didn't notice Lily's quick inhale. She was already striding away, phone pressed to her ear, her smile hidden but her voice syrup-sweet. "Yes, everything is moving forward." That afternoon, Lily met Bob in the dim glow of the Hudson Yards maintenance room. The hum of servers filled the air like the beating of 1,000 hearts. "She said tonight," Lily whispered. Bob's weathered hands tightened around a bundle of wires. "Then tonight it is. We'll be ready." He pulled a small monitor from a satchel, an old but sturdy device that could tap into the redirected camera feeds. "These should catch everything now that you shifted the lenses." Lily nodded, pride flickering beneath her fear. She remembered the feel of turning those cameras, the way her tiny hands had reshaped the game. Bob crouched to her level, his voice steady. "You're doing what most grown men couldn't, kiddo. But listen to me. When she comes tonight, you stay out of sight. Don't play hero. Just watch. Let the cameras do the work." "I promise," she whispered, though her heart already doubted her ability to stay still. Evening fell heavy over Manhattan. The mansion glowed with golden light, chandeliers blazing in every room. A limousine waited outside for Alex, its polished black surface gleaming like obsidian under the street lamps. Lily lingered near the staircase as Alex descended in a tuxedo, adjusting his cufflinks. Rebecca followed him, draped in elegance, though she would not attend the gala. She had work to finish at home. "Behave," Alex told Lily briefly, his voice clipped, distracted. She nodded. "Yes, sir." His eyes lingered on her for just a heartbeat longer than usual, as if he wanted to say more. But then he was gone, swept into the night. The front doors closed. Silence returned, and the trap was set. Lily crept upstairs, notebook tucked under her arm, and slipped into a small alcove near Alex's office. From her backpack, she pulled out the portable monitor Bob had given her. Its tiny screen flickered to life, grainy images filling it, 3 separate camera angles of the office. At first, nothing. Just the empty expanse of glass windows and the polished desk. Then, the door opened. Rebecca entered, her heels silent on the carpet. She moved with the precision of someone who knew she was unseen. But tonight, the room itself was watching her. Lily held her breath as Rebecca crossed to the desk, pulled a small device from her blazer, and knelt by the safe embedded in the wall. On the monitor, the camera angle shifted just enough to capture her fingers dancing across the keypad. A faint green light blinked. The safe door opened. Rebecca smiled. A real smile this time, sharp and triumphant. She pulled out a sleek folder, flipping it open to reveal diagrams, codes, pages stamped with the Hayes Cyber logo. She snapped photographs with her phone, her motions swift, efficient. Lily's heart hammered. It's happening. We're catching her. But then, Rebecca paused. She lifted her head slightly, as if sensing something. Her eyes flicked toward the ceiling, toward the very cameras Lily had turned. Lily's blood ran cold. For a heartbeat, She thought Rebecca had seen it, that everything would crumble. But Rebecca only shook her head faintly and returned to work. She tapped at her device, connecting it to the server hidden in her tablet. Streams of data scrolled across the screen. Lily pressed her hands over her mouth to stifle a gasp. Rebecca wasn't just stealing files, she was hacking into the company's live servers. Millions of customers, governments, corporations, all of their data exposed in that moment to the woman standing calmly in Alex's office. Tears pricked Lily's eyes. She thought of the families who trusted Hayes Cyber to protect them, of the people who believed they were safe. This wasn't just betrayal. It was war. Rebecca's voice broke the silence, smooth and low, captured perfectly on the audio feed. "Nathan, it's me. The vault's open. I have the files. The customer data is coming through now. Hayes won't know until it's too late." On the monitor, Lily saw her lips curve into that same flawless smile. And then Nathan's voice crackled faintly through the connection. "Good. Finish it. We're almost there." Lily clutched her notebook, her pencil scratching furiously across the page. "Day 15. She's doing it. But we have her now." Suddenly, Rebecca stiffened. A noise in the hallway, soft but enough. Lily froze. She realized with horror that her own shoe had scraped against the floor of her alcove. The monitor wobbled in her lap as her hands shook. Inside the office, Rebecca rose slowly, head tilting like a predator catching scent. Her eyes narrowed toward the door. Lily's breath caught. If Rebecca stepped outside now, she would find her. She shut her eyes, whispering silently, "Don't come. Please don't come." After an agonizing pause, Rebecca turned back to the safe, gathering her tools, humming softly under her breath. Lily exhaled, her entire body trembling. 10 minutes later, Rebecca exited the office, her expression serene, her tablet tucked neatly under her arm. To anyone watching, she looked like the perfect assistant finishing another long day. But on Lily's monitor, the cameras had seen everything. The photographs, the hacking, the betrayal. The wolf had walked straight into the trap. When the mansion finally quieted again, Lily scribbled her last note of the night. Day 15. Proof isn't a whisper anymore. Proof has a face. And for the first time, she felt stronger than the silence that had always haunted her. The Plaza Hotel glittered with chandeliers and laughter that evening. But the mansion Alex Hayes had left behind grew darker with every passing hour. Lily Parker crouched in the corner of her room, notebook clutched tight against her chest. She had watched Rebecca enter Alex's office before. She had seen her open safes, steal files, and smile as if betrayal were a language she had mastered. But tonight was different. Tonight, Rebecca wasn't just stealing. She was going deeper. Bob's voice echoed in Lily's memory. "Video is strong, but catch her in the act of breaking into the servers and there's no denying it. That's the bulletproof proof." And Lily knew, with the certainty only a child could carry, that tonight, Rebecca would try. The mansion had gone still after Alex left. The staff retired to their quarters, the guards rotated shifts outside, and the silence returned. Rebecca's footsteps were the only sound as she ascended the staircase. Lily, hidden in the alcove with her portable monitor, felt her pulse rise when the office door opened again. The screen flickered with grainy images. Rebecca stepping into the office, her blazer folded neatly over a chair, her expression sharpened into focus. She opened the safe effortlessly, like someone who had done it dozens of times, and retrieved a black case this time, not just folders. Lily leaned closer, her eyes wide. Rebecca placed the case on the desk, keyed in a code on her device, and slid a drive into the server port of Alex's computer. Data scrolled across her tablet screen, green and red streams of encrypted numbers bleeding into foreign servers. Lily's heart hammered. This wasn't just theft. This was a full-scale breach. On the monitor, Rebecca's lips moved. Her voice carried clearly through the feed. "Nathan, it's all here. I'm in the mainframe now. Within the hour, we'll have complete access. A faint male voice crackled back through the comm. Good. Once you secure the encryption module, Hayes is finished. Meridian, the feds, even his shareholders, they'll all turn on him. Rebecca's smile was razor sharp. Then it's our turn. Lily scribbled furiously in her notebook. Day 16. They're burning him down tonight. But she couldn't just sit still. Her hands trembled, not with fear this time, but with urgency. If Rebecca got away with this, no video in the world could undo the damage. Alex's empire would be ashes by morning. She crept down the hallway, her sneakers silent, and stopped just outside the office door. The glow of Rebecca's tablet lit the room, casting her silhouette against the glass. For a moment, Lily hesitated. Bob had told her to stay hidden, to let the cameras do the work. But Bob wasn't here, and Alex didn't even know. It was just her. She stepped inside. Rebecca froze, her hands still on the device. She turned slowly, her smile snapping into place like armor. Lily, she said softly. What are you doing awake, darling? Lily swallowed hard. You're not supposed to be here. Rebecca chuckled, the sound light, dismissive. I'm always here. I take care of Mr. Hayes's business when he cannot. Surely you've noticed. You're stealing, Lily whispered. The smile sharpened. Big words, sweetheart. You must have been snooping. Rebecca stepped closer, her heels clicking softly. That's dangerous, you know. Curiosity can hurt. Lily's fingers gripped her notebook like a shield. The cameras saw you. Everything you did. They're not watching him anymore. They're watching you. For the first time, Rebecca's expression faltered. Her eyes flicked toward the ceiling, toward the red dots glowing faintly in the dark. Her jaw tightened. You clever little rat, she hissed. Lily's chest heaved, but she stood her ground. He's going to know. Everyone will know. Rebecca's eyes narrowed, then softened again with terrifying speed. She crouched to Lily's level, her smile returning, gentler this time, almost coaxing. You think he'll believe you? She whispered. You? The girl he barely looks at? You're a child, Lily. Children imagine things. He'll pat your head and send you to bed while his empire crumbles, and you'll watch him lose everything. Lily's throat tightened. For a moment, the words cut too close to truth. Alex had ignored her, brushed past her, treated her as an afterthought. But then she remembered Bob's steady voice. You're certain. That matters. And she remembered her own words written night after night. Day 1, I will not hope too much. Day 12, tonight I will listen for the truth. She straightened her spine. He'll believe me, because I have proof. Because I counted. Rebecca's smile cracked, brittle now. Her hand shot out, snatching Lily's wrist with surprising force. You should have stayed invisible, she whispered. Lily gasped, struggling, her notebook falling to the floor with a slap. The pages fanned open. Numbers scrawled across them like a map of her survival. Rebecca's eyes flicked down, just for a second. Enough for Lily to wrench her arm free and stumble backward toward the door. Run all you want, Rebecca said coldly, straightening. By tomorrow, there will be nothing left for him to save. Lily fled down the hallway, her heart pounding. She clutched her notebook to her chest, the pages trembling in her hands. She wanted to scream for Alex, to call Bob, to wake the house. But she knew the cameras were already recording. The evidence was safe. She just had to make it through the night. Rebecca remained in the office, her smile gone now, her face hard as stone. She typed faster, furious, her hands moving like claws across the tablet. And all the while the red dots blinked overhead, watching, recording, sealing her fate. Later, as the mansion fell into silence once more, Lily wrote her final line for the night. Day 16, I stood in front of the wolf and didn't run. Tomorrow he'll see her teeth. And with that, she closed the notebook, her small hands steady at last. Morning came dressed in gray clouds, but inside Hayes, Cybersecurity's Manhattan headquarters, the air was electric. Today was no ordinary day. It was the day Alexander Hayes would host the Meridian Group from Chicago, a delegation of investors whose partnership could catapult his company into the next decade of dominance. For Alex, it was another negotiation. For Lily Parker, it was the moment she had been waiting for, the chance to reveal the truth. In the limousine, Alex sat stiffly, reading over reports on his tablet. His jaw was set, his tie perfectly knotted, every detail of him immaculate. Beside him, Rebecca Sloan murmured reminders of his schedule, her voice a constant drizzle of calm efficiency. And then there was Lily, squeezed into the back seat, her notebook pressed to her chest. She wasn't supposed to be here. But when Alex had mentioned the meeting at breakfast, she had begged, pleaded in a rare burst of bravery, "Please, Mr. Hayes, let me come. I promise I'll be quiet." Alex had frowned, but, for reasons he didn't quite understand, had agreed. Perhaps it was the way her small eyes looked so determined, or perhaps he was too distracted to argue. Rebecca had shot Lily a glance, sharp and questioning, before schooling her features into a smile. The boardroom stretched like a cathedral of glass, high above Hudson Yards. The skyline glittered through floor-to-ceiling windows, but all eyes were on the long obsidian table, polished to a mirror's shine. The Meridian Group entered in a flurry of tailored suits and confident handshakes. Their leader, a tall man with silver hair named Richard Lawson, gripped Alex's hand firmly. "We're eager to see what Hayes Cyber has built," Lawson said, "but we're even more eager to see if you can deliver on your promises." "Hayes Cyber always delivers," Alex replied smoothly, his voice steady as steel. Rebecca hovered at his shoulder, her tablet ready, her smile flawless. Lily slipped quietly into a chair at the back of the room, clutching her backpack. She looked like nothing more than a child tagging along, invisible in the world of power and money, but her heart pounded with the secret she carried. The meeting began. Slides flashed across the screen, numbers danced, projections rose like skyscrapers of profit. The Meridian delegates nodded, some impressed, some skeptical. Rebecca moved gracefully, distributing documents, answering questions when Alex gestured to her. She looked every inch the perfect lieutenant, loyal, competent, indispensable. But Lily knew better. She waited, her hands sweating against the zipper of her backpack. She could feel the small weight of the portable monitor inside. When the moment came, it would be hers to act. 2 hours into the presentation, Lawson leaned back in his chair. "These projections are ambitious, Mr. Hayes. But ambition without security is suicide. Tell me, can you prove your systems are impenetrable?" Alex opened his mouth to respond, but Lily stood. "Wait," she said softly. The room went silent. Dozens of eyes turned toward the small figure at the back. Alex's brow furrowed. "Lily?" She clutched her notebook, her voice trembling but clear. "You should see something first." Rebecca's smile flickered. "Sweetheart, this isn't—" Lily ignored her. She walked to the head of the table, her sneakers squeaking faintly against the polished floor. Her small hands unzipped her backpack and pulled out the portable monitor. "Can I plug this in?" she asked. Alex stared at her, bewildered. "What are you doing?" "Please," Lily whispered. "Trust me." For reasons he couldn't explain, Alex nodded. Perhaps it was the fire in her eyes, the conviction that mirrored his own when he faced enemies across the negotiating table. He gestured to the IT technician. Hook it up. Rebecca's face had gone pale, though she quickly masked it with a laugh. Mr. Hayes, this is absurd. But then the screen flickered. Grainy footage filled the wall. The boardroom gasped as Rebecca appeared on screen, alone in Alex's office. They watched her open the safe. They watched her pull out documents, photograph them, slide a drive into Alex's computer. They watched her connect to the servers, her voice clear as she spoke. Nathan, it's all here. I'm in the mainframe now. Gasps rippled through the room. Meridian delegates exchanged sharp looks. Lawson leaned forward, his face hardening. Rebecca's real smile, the sharp, wolfish one, flashed across the video, and then Nathan's voice crackled faintly. Good. Once you secure the encryption module, Hayes is finished. The footage ended in silence that pressed heavy on every chest. Alex's face had gone ashen. He turned slowly toward Rebecca. She was already standing, her smile gone, her body taut like a cornered predator. This is manipulation, she snapped. A trick. You can't take the word of a child. Lawson slammed his palm on the table. A trick? That was your voice, Ms. Sloan. Your face. Your hands on that safe. Do you take us for fools? Other delegates murmured, some in anger, some in disbelief. Rebecca's eyes darted around the room, searching for an exit, a weakness, a lie she could cling to. But there was none. And Lily, small but unshaken, stood with her notebook pressed to her chest. She's been lying, Lily said quietly. Since the beginning. Alex's throat tightened. He looked at the girl, this child he had barely acknowledged. This child who had just saved his empire, and felt something crack deep inside. Rebecca's mask slipped entirely then. Her smile vanished, replaced by rage. You don't understand, she hissed. Do you think he cares about you, Lily? He doesn't even see you. You're nothing to him, and without me, his empire would collapse. Alex's voice cut through the tension, low but sharp. Get out. Rebecca laughed bitterly. You'll regret this. But before she could move, two security officers stepped forward, summoned silently by Lawson's signal. They seized her arms as she struggled, her polished composure shattering in an instant. The room remained heavy with shock. Lawson leaned back, studying Alex with new eyes. You may have enemies in your own house, Mr. Hayes, but you also have unlikely guardians. He glanced toward Lily, whose small shoulders shook but whose chin remained lifted. She's the reason you still have a company to negotiate with, Lawson added. Alex turned to Lily, words failing him. For the first time in years, he felt his empire slip out of his hands, not because he was losing it, but because someone far smaller had carried it for him. And that realization burned deeper than any betrayal. That night, back at the mansion, Lily sat on her bed, notebook open. Her pencil scratched a single line across the page. Day 17, today. The truth exploded. She set the pencil down, her hands finally steady. And in the silence of the great house, she knew, the smallest voice had been heard. The boardroom was still trembling from the shock of the revelation. Rebecca Sloan's polished image had shattered like glass dropped from the top of the Hudson Yards tower. Security officers gripped her arms, pulling her back from the table, as the Meridian Group delegates muttered in outrage. Alexander Hayes stood motionless at the head of the table, his face pale, his mind struggling to reconcile what he had just seen. For years, Rebecca had been his most trusted assistant, the one who guarded his calendar, his secrets, his very sanity in the chaos of corporate life. And now she was the wolf, exposed in front of everyone. But wolves did not die quietly. Rebecca stopped struggling for a moment, her chest rising and falling with sharp breaths. Then her lips curled into a smile, Not the flawless professional mask, but something raw, dangerous. "You all think you've won," she hissed, her voice low but venomous. "You think one little video makes me powerless? You don't understand how deep this goes." Lawson, leader of the Meridian Group, leaned forward, his expression stony. "We've seen enough, Ms. Sloan. You're finished." Rebecca threw back her head and laughed, a sound that sliced through the room like broken glass. "Finished? You fools. The files are already gone. I don't need Hayes Cyber anymore. With one command, I can wipe every server you own. Every client, every government contract. Obliterated." The delegates erupted in gasps, some leaping to their feet. Alex's stomach dropped. For a moment, doubt flickered in his mind. Could she really do it? Rebecca twisted against the guard's grip, her eyes glittering like knives. "All it takes is one keystroke, and your empire is dust. You'll be nothing but a headline tomorrow." The room spun with fear and fury. Some delegates barked questions. Is she serious? Can she? While others demanded immediate containment. But through the storm, one voice cut clear. Lily. She stepped forward from the back of the room, her small figure dwarfed by the obsidian table, her notebook clutched tightly in her arms. Her voice trembled at first, but grew stronger with each word. "She's lying." The chaos dimmed. Heads turned toward the girl. Rebecca sneered. "What do you know, child? Go back to your crayons." But Lily did not flinch. She met Rebecca's blazing eyes with calm certainty. "If you could destroy everything, you would have done it already," Lily said. "That's what wolves do when they're strong. They bite. But you didn't bite. You waited. You tried to steal instead, to hide. Because you can't. You don't have the power you say you do." Her words hung in the silence like a blade. Rebecca's jaw tightened. The sneer faltered. Lily pressed on, her small voice unwavering. "You were bluffing, just like you always bluff. You smile to hide your teeth, but it's not strength. It's fear. You were scared he'd never see you, scared you weren't enough. That's why you did this." The room fell silent. Even the Meridian delegates, who moments ago had been ready to storm out, now watched the child with wide eyes. Alex's throat tightened. He had never heard anyone speak to Rebecca like that. He had never heard anyone speak with such clear, piercing truth. Rebecca let out a broken laugh. "You think you've won, little girl? Do you know what it's like to serve someone your whole life and never be seen? To give everything and still be invisible?" Her voice cracked, the fury breaking into something raw. Tears welled in her eyes, though she blinked them away furiously. "I built this empire with him," she spat, jerking her head toward Alex. "Every call, every deal, every sleepless night, I was there. And what was I? A shadow, an assistant, a name on the calendar. Nothing more." Her voice dropped to a whisper, bitter and trembling. "I wanted to be seen." The words echoed in Lily's chest. She understood them too well. For years, she had been invisible in foster homes, unseen by families who promised forever and delivered nothing. She took a small step closer. "I know what it feels like to be invisible," she said softly. "But stealing doesn't make people see you. Hurting them doesn't make them love you. It just makes them afraid." Rebecca's shoulders sagged, her fury crumbling into something fragile. Her lips trembled as if she might speak again, but the guards tightened their grip. In that moment, the wolf was no longer a predator. She was just a cornered, wounded creature. The door burst open. FBI agents stormed in, jackets marked with bold letters, their presence heavy and final. "Rebecca Sloan? Nathan Cross? You're under arrest for corporate espionage, conspiracy, and theft of classified technology. Rebecca stiffened, her last ounce of defiance slipping away. Her eyes darted toward Alex one last time, filled with a storm of anger and longing. "You never saw me," she whispered. And then she was gone, dragged from the room as cameras flashed and chaos erupted. The Meridian delegates gathered their papers, murmuring amongst themselves. Some were shaken, others furious. But one thing was clear. Hayes Cyber had narrowly avoided catastrophe. Lawson turned to Alex, his expression hard but measured. "You have enemies closer than you think, Mr. Hayes, but you also have surprising allies." His gaze shifted to Lily. "She saved you today. Remember that." Alex looked at the girl, standing small and steadfast at the far end of the table, her notebook pressed to her chest. For the first time in years, he felt the weight of his empire lessen. Not because it was secure, but because he was no longer carrying it alone. That night, back in the mansion, Lily sat on her bed, her pencil moving slowly across the page. Day 18. The wolf was cornered. She wanted to be seen, but she chose the wrong way. She closed the notebook, her eyes heavy with exhaustion. And as she drifted into sleep, the silence of the mansion no longer felt so heavy, because for the first time Alex Hayes had truly looked at her. The storm of betrayal had passed, but its echo lingered in the halls of Hayes Cybersecurity and in the quiet corners of Alexander Hayes's mansion. Rebecca Sloan and Nathan Cross were in federal custody. The Meridian Group had resumed negotiations, wary but intrigued by the resilience of a company that had faced treachery within its own walls and survived. And yet, the loudest change had not happened in the boardroom. It had happened in the heart of a 9-year-old girl who, for the first time, felt that her voice had carried weight in a world that had never listened. That morning, the mansion was uncharacteristically warm. The staff greeted Lily with softer smiles, as though her courage had lit the chandeliers brighter. She sat at the breakfast table, swinging her legs under the chair, a notebook open beside her plate of toast. Alex entered the room, dressed not in a suit but in a simple button-down shirt, sleeves rolled. The transformation startled even him. He had always been armored in formality. Today, he wanted none of it. He cleared his throat. "Lily." She looked up, cautious. "Yes, Mr. Hayes?" He hesitated, the words heavy, unfamiliar. "I owe you my company, my reputation, maybe even my life. But most of all, I owe you the truth." Lily blinked. "The truth?" He sat across from her, leaning forward. "I haven't been a father to you. Not even close. I signed papers, opened my house, but I never opened myself. You've been counting days, haven't you?" Her eyes widened. "How did you know?" He nodded toward her notebook. "You carry it everywhere. I used to do the same. When I was a boy, in a house not unlike this one, I counted days until someone noticed me, until I mattered." The admission hung in the air like a confession. Slowly, Lily pushed her notebook across the table. He opened it, reading the neat lines. Day 1, I will not hope too much. Day 7, something is watching. Day 14, the wolf will walk into her own trap. And finally, the last entry, Day 18, she chose the wrong way. Alex's eyes stung. He closed the book gently as if it were made of glass. "Lily," he said, his voice rough, "I want to give you a new page. One that doesn't count days until you're left. One that counts days of a family." Her breath caught. Family. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Inside was a set of legal documents. Adoption papers. "I want to make this official," Alex said softly. Not because of debt, not because of gratitude, but because you are my daughter in every way that matters. If you'll have me. Tears blurred Lily's vision. For so long she had been invisible, shuffled between homes, told not to hope. Now, here was the man she had saved, offering her the one thing she had always wanted, not riches, not power, but permanence. She whispered, "Yes." The signing took place that afternoon in Alex's private study. Bob Jenkins, dressed in his old janitor's uniform but standing straighter than ever, served as a witness. His sharp eyes softened as he watched Lily grip the pen with trembling fingers and scrawl her name beside Alex's. When it was done, Bob cleared his throat. "Well, looks like I'm out of excuses. Guess I'll have to accept this new role." "What role?" Alex asked. Bob smirked. "Official consultant, remember? You promised." Alex extended a hand. "Not promised. Earned." Bob shook it firmly, the past of his long career reflected in the pride of his weathered eyes. That evening, the mansion felt alive in a way it never had. The dining table was no longer an ocean of silence, but a gathering place. Lily sat beside Alex, notebook on the table, but for once the page was blank. She didn't need to write tonight. She simply needed to be. Alex carved roast chicken himself, serving her a piece before his own. It was awkward, imperfect, but genuine. Halfway through the meal, Lily looked up at him. "What should I write for today?" He set down his fork, considering. Then he smiled. A small, real smile, not the practiced one he gave investors. "Write. Day 19. The first day of family." Her pencil scratched across the paper. She underlined it twice. Weeks passed. The FBI built their case against Rebecca and Nathan, and Hayes Cyber implemented new safeguards under Bob's guidance. The Meridian Group, impressed by the company's resilience, signed the partnership after all. But none of that mattered as much to Lily as the evenings spent with Alex, when he would close his laptop, set aside the world, and listen. Really listen. Sometimes they talked about school, sometimes about her mother, the little she remembered. Sometimes they said nothing at all, sitting together by the fire, the silence no longer heavy but warm, like a blanket. One snowy afternoon, Alex surprised her with a small wrapped box. Inside was a leather-bound notebook, embossed with gold. "For your new days," he said. She traced the cover with reverence. "Thank you." On the first page, she wrote carefully, "Day 1. Home." In the quiet glow of that moment, Alex realized that the empire he had spent his life building was not Hayes Cyber. It was not the skyscrapers, the contracts, or the billions. It was this small girl who had saved him by refusing to be unseen. And it was Bob, the old guard who reminded him that loyalty could be found in unexpected places. And it was himself, broken but learning to rebuild, not as a titan of business but as a father. The family contract was not signed in boardrooms or sealed with ink. It was signed in every meal shared, every story told, every night Lily went to bed knowing she was wanted. And it was sealed by the truth that sometimes the smallest voice could protect the largest empire, not through power but through love. Thank you for staying with us until the very end of this story. If it touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss the next journey of hope and healing.